Being a dental practice owner is equal parts awesome and annoying. I should know, my name is Paul, Dr. Nacho Goodman. I've been a dental practice owner for 15 years, and I'm here with one of my best friends and patients, and he is wearing his coach hat today. This is Mark mdorio, who we've done a lot of awesome implant work on, but he helps teams move forward with success, get along and figure it out. And Mark, share with the audience, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to help teams get along, move forward, be on the same page?
Okay, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I work with people that need to work together to be successful. Okay, almost anything you do today is not done in a solitary. Everything involves working with other people, and especially dental practice, right? I mean, you all have to work together to be successful and to make that patient feel comfortable, and at the same time and
we work as a team. And you've been with me for so long, and this is going to date our conversation when you talk about Andy Reid being the coach of the Eagles. Right. You talk about coaching and training. Sorry to bring up the Eagles; they're not doing too well now, but they did win a Super Bowl a few years ago, so that was good.
Exactly.
But tell that if you're thinking about getting into dental practice ownership, you're going from an associate to practice owner.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you see to be able to prepare for it? Things to be aware of. I mean, you've been a patient in this office for many years. You've worked with our teams.
Sure.
What are some things that people should be thinking about?
Okay, first of all, you're used to being a solo performer in many ways, okay? It's like being a third baseman. All of a sudden, when you become the manager of the team, it involves a whole different, you have to really look at everybody in terms of how they work together. But before, you worked yourself, and you had an assistant, and you had procedures, and all of a sudden, I'm responsible for how the whole team functions together. And that's a big transition. That's really from moving from doing to helping other people do in many ways.
For sure. And you help manage, I mean, a lot of it is, and this is what I will share, you have to answer so many questions throughout the day that were not your responsibility, and some you don't know how to answer, and being a leader and a coach and figuring that out is tough.
Other people's performance, their job performance. Whether it be the staff or whether it be the professional staff, you're now responsible for how they perform their jobs. Where before, you're pretty much responsible for yourself.
Yeah, you have to start giving feedback. I notice people, they tell me they like feedback, but they particularly like good feedback. How do you give feedback to make people do better? So we're going to be working together with Dental Nachos and helping people transition into practice ownership, helping office managers. We have upcoming videos coming up. But you shared something with me. When you first came to this office, you felt confident about the team. So just share with Dennis why it's so important as a leader and practice owner to get your team all going in the same direction.
When you come as a patient, you sit in a waiting room and you listen and you see people interact. You very quickly can pick up signals of what this practice is like.
For sure.
It's amazing. Just how people talk to each other, how people work with each other. You can feel that, and you can see it, and you can hear it. So right away from day one, people already have an impression of your organization.
Yeah, it's such a good point. Well, thanks for doing what you do for us. If people want to know more about what you do directly, what's the best website for them to go to?
You can Google my name, Mark, M-A-R-C-D-O-R-I-O. Just go to Google and everything comes up.
One of my favorite books I read is that you wrote the Idiot's Guide to the Perfect Job interview, right?
Exactly. I've written 9 books, and you can Google my name and you'll know more about me than you even want to know.
Well, thanks, Mark. You're an amazing professional, but even more amazing person. Thanks so much.
Thanks for that, Doctor.
My name is Lisa Lagatal. I'm here to get a new smile.
So my awesome patient Lisa, her main concern was how she looked. She was embarrassed that she was missing a front tooth.
I feel like Lisa used to be a very outgoing person and come up and visit my kids all the time and hang out with us. Doesn't want to be in public anymore. She doesn't, come with us in the amusement park. She doesn't really do anything that she used to do with us in the last, 5 or 6 years.
I mean, for Lisa, the reason she was being held back and not going out was because she was embarrassed to smile in front of her family. The person who had nominated her, her awesome niece that nominated her, shared that, she wanted her to be at family events and she wasn't going to them. So that really was holding her back in the most poignant and a lot of times sad ways. Pictures of each teeth, we might find that hey, 3 other teeth have cavities here, we have to deal with that. We make a treatment plan or a roadmap or a blueprint. But I think, Lori, you were so kind to, share Lisa with us. And what I want to share with you is, we would love to take care of this for you, do it as a gift for you, totally at no cost. I know you were coming here thinking you were going to see if you won, but you did win. And I want to do it for you.
Thank you.
You did it.
You want to accept, you want to take care of your whole mouth.
Yeah.
We really want to get our old Lisa back and have her out and about with us and enjoying life again.
mean, I think we're able to change Lisa's life quickly, immediately, and long term. First, we know as dentists that we can replace front tooth, sometimes just something removable, but no one notices it, that it's removable, and they can chew and smile. They can smile with confidence. Then long term, we're going to replace teeth and get her chewing in the back and getting her feeling good. So I think we can have an immediate long-term impact on not only her dental health, but more importantly, how she feels about herself.
Oh, I think Lisa is going to be just a happier person and happier to join the family with, family events and things like that. Make a huge difference.
The way people feel about how their teeth look, how their teeth work, we're using our teeth all the time to eat and smile and communicate with people, it's just going to have an awesome impact on her. I mean, I think life is challenging at any time, but at this point on Earth, with this pandemic, it's extra challenging. So giving her the opportunity to just feel better each day, to be able to eat the things she wants to eat, to be able to go out and do the things she wants to do, is just going to be amazing for her. I want to welcome you to the How to Buy Your First Dental Practice Challenge. And today's episode is going to focus on such an important skill, building your emotional intelligence. My guest and awesome friend and patient Mark is welcome to pop on whenever he is ready. He can unmute and do his video. If you guys need to help him, perfect, there he is. So I want to introduce to you one of the most important people in my life, my friend, patient management coach, author of The Idiot's Guide to the Perfect Job Interview, Mark Dorio. Mark, you can orient our audience first. Tell us a little bit about your dental patient life, because maybe you could relate to the patient in the video who's trying to get a new smile.
Yeah, I mean, very briefly, I had been a dental phobic and had been, I guess, 34, 35 years since I've been to the dentist, had some teeth loss. And finally, looking in the mirror and my wife's constant urging, I went to Pennington Dental to, I thought at the time just to get a nice cleaning would do it, but ended up it was more than that, and I ended up with.
We transformed you with implants. Also, but I had asked you one time, Mark, why did you decide to do it? And you said change because it got bad enough, which I think is a launching point for this discussion on emotional intelligence. So I have this guy here, Mark, that I talk about. Your mind skills, your word skills, your hand skills, and your heart skills. And dental school does not really do much outside of these hand skills. And emotional intelligence is so key. And we had the video with interviewing you. So what we want to talk about, what I want to interview you about, because you're helping people daily. So just tell us a little bit about what you do in your daily life, helping leaders, CEOs, dentists with this skill of emotional intelligence and why it's so important.
Yeah, my work with organizations, with individuals, team. Yeah, and emotional intelligence. In fact, I just saw a survey done by both Harvard and Rutgers University. Just 2,800 dentists, and they looked at their success, their professional success, and they found out that professional success, 75% of it was their emotional intelligence, and 25% their actual competency. Now we can talk about what emotional intelligence is in a minute, but it just shows you that this is the element that makes you successful, and it becomes even more important when you are the leader of a practice. Yep. As opposed to, we talked about being a private, a solo performer.
And what I want to share, I just was watching my idol, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, talk to 300 dentists as part of this amazing thing. And he talked about dentistry being a commodity, and some dentists don't like that. But he said, all of you can do a good crown. I know somebody might be able to do a little better, but it's the other stuff that matters. And we don't talk about that. So I think, your competence really is a commodity. When a patient goes to the dentist, they expect to get good work. And what's great is they do. But all these other things that happen outside the operatory, Mark, if someone's watching as a dental student saying, I'm ready to learn about emotional intelligence. First question, what is it? What's your best definition of it? And then how would it relate to being a dentist?
It's basically four things. It consists of four elements. One is emotional self-awareness. Do you know what turns you on, turns you off, makes you happy, makes you sad? What presses your buttons? Okay, do you, first of all, know yourself?
So emotional self-awareness, number one.
Second is self-management. Now that I have those emotions, you can't prevent emotion. Somebody recently said to me, you can't prevent emotions. It's like a bird pooping on your car.
Yes.
But how you react to it. And it's the same thing. How do you react to do you react to your emotions, or to respond thoughtfully.
So awareness, then the management of emotions. Got it.
And then the third piece is actually the idea of empathy, social awareness. And that's where empathy comes in. Am I aware of other people's emotions? For example, that patient who's very anxious,
right,
or the associate who works with you who's having a bad day and is upset. Are you aware of so social awareness is extremely important.
Awareness, empathy, management. Awareness, management, empathy. I got it. Great.
And the last thing is they call relationship management, which is all these combined in one. Now, people are listening to us in this webinar, and some people are saying, well, what the heck does this have to do with my business? I feel that this emotional intelligence is the nexus to this is revenue generation, profitability, increasing patient number of your patients.
That's so important. It's always about the impact. So why is it important to work on those things? Increase production, increase your customer service. All these things are so important. They're all tied together. It's not a fluffy thing that doesn't matter. So that's so great, Mark. So we got, what is emotional intelligence? Why is it important? Now, dentists often feel alone, which is not shocking because we are alone. We're often working by ourselves. You're a patient of Pennington Dental, so we have 4 or 5 dentists, but I don't see 50 dentists like doctors at a hospital. So I want to bring this to light. We're not alone because of this. A leader of a dental practice, an owner who gets frustrated with their team arguing, that has challenges with not ordering the right supplies. Do you see that in any other industries, Mark? Are those similar? Tell us some of the other industries where you might see some of those same challenges who you work with.
Almost every industry I work with, for example, food stores, supermarket chains. I work with service departments who service equipment. I work with a lot of non-for-profits that work with children who have autism or challenges like that. And it's the same thing. And that moving from being the only person, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I come from a dental family. My godfather was a dentist. He had an office attached to his house. He worked 40 years alone. And when I was older, I said to him, Uncle Rocco, why is it you never hired people? He said, I didn't want to get into all that stuff. I knew it was something for me I didn't want to do. So, and I don't think I understood at the time as much as I understand it now. So if you really are aspiring to move into a leadership position, or you're in one right now,
that's such great advice. So your uncle was a classic That's So dentist who made his life more stressful, because if I said to a dentist, Mark, hey, Dr. Mark, the tooth broke off in the gum. We want you to dig it out. Or behind door number 2 is to referee an argument between assistants. They'd say, I'll take the tooth problem, because the people problem's tough. But let's use years ago, and I have my awesome team members putting down some notes in the chat here. Make sure we get self-awareness, self-management on the Golden Nacho tips list. But you said to me years ago, and Brandon and Ariel and Christian and people watching say, Andy Reid during the week does training, during the game he does coaching, right? So now we're going to use the Eagles quarterback maybe this year, Jalen Hurts. He's the quarterback. So Mark, dentists don't understand this. Nobody wants the quarterback of the Eagles to pour the Gatorade on the sideline, right? Because if he pours the Gatorade on the sideline, he can't win the game. But dentists are too often doing lower level tasks. They're not judgment on the task or the money, but they wind up overtasking themselves, overtaxing themselves. So where does emotional intelligence come into play? Your uncle didn't want to get into any of this. Now we'll come to a 2021 dentist. To get us kicked off, where would dentists be thinking about building this emotional intelligence in their daily day, whether it's with team, patients, money? What are some good tips?
The idea is, I think that when you become the leader of that practice, your emotions, how you react to things, ripple through the whole organization.
Right.
It's almost the analogy I'm using is that when you're single is one thing. You get married, all of a sudden your emotions affect that partner. And then you have children, and it really affects them.
Yeah.
So part of it is the understanding that that leader says what good is, standard by what she says or what she does, and how she handles emotions really makes that office either on edge or comfortable. And you have to understand something. I think patients coming into a dental office, especially how much of your discretionary, non-discretionary type of procedures are emotionally laden.
Of course. Oh, yeah, I'll tell you, Mark. Here, I'll tell you. So we have this group doing straightening people's teeth with clear liners, right? And I have implants so you can chew, straight teeth so you can smile well. Well, when people come for the straight teeth thing, they are signing up like no problem because they're going to look better, right? Now, this particular thing is cool because straightening your teeth makes them work better, but people do wants-based stuff in life. And that if you don't have the right emotional energy in the practice, people are not going to want to come for want-based stuff in a culture where they notice that maybe the dentist is on edge, they're not getting along with the assistant, they don't have enough, why you use the Disney way, on stage versus off stage personality. So if somebody's watching, Mark, thinking, this sounds like me, I'm a leader, I care about my team and patients, but maybe it's bleeding out into the office, what are some simple strategies they can think about?
Well, first of all, how I work with people, a client, if I was to work with that kind of dentist, I try to create self-awareness with them. I do a couple. There's an assessment I use on measuring. I can give you an assessment that'll help you determine your emotional intelligence. I can give you an assessment that'll help you look at what your leadership style is right now, the way you work with people, and your communication style. So I always start with people first. Get to know yourself.
And I want to pause you, Mark, because it's so good. People, when you go to a personal trainer, everyone knows this, they do an assessment because you might say I'm overweight, but your real problem might be cardiovascular endurance. You might say I want to get stronger, but you really have a flexibility problem. So it's the expert. So Mark, people could say to me that show, you better call Paul with a problem. I feel like you should have a morale-based Mark conversation because that's what you're doing for leaders. So a leader can reach out to you directly, and can they do this training one-on-one with you, like privately?
Obviously, I've been doing this this past year heavily virtual. I've just now started doing it back in person again. But yeah, you can reach out to me, and I will tell you, just 3 one-hour sessions with me on this, just the assessment alone is worth
transformative, because this is what I'm trying to deliver value to this audience, both in person who's watching in, but also people will consume this and they may be thinking, so I'm stressed, I want to learn about emotional intelligence. So one strategy is they can work with someone like you to find out what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. Where they should be going. I have a sense, Mark, where they might say, I really stink at this, but they're good at it. And other times they might say, I'm good at this, but they're not good at it, right? So in this assessment phase, what with the dental practice owner, or if you're going to buy a dental practice, right? That's what we're talking about with owning a dental practice. You're going from the associate, our awesome associates at our practice, but if they have to go from the associate to owner, they now have to start thinking about things outside of their patient. Tell us a little bit about that.
The other piece of this is what I call performance management, how to set expectations for staff, how to give feedback. You mentioned that in our promo, how to give feedback. When I was a solo practitioner, I didn't have to give any feedback. Maybe my dental assistant, I've said something to her or him occasionally about how he did. But now I have, and also how do teams work? So all of a sudden you've got to understand as a manager how to put the pieces together, the front end, the hygienist.
You know what dentists are good at, Mark? I don't know if this is a good management style, but I don't want to impress you with my dentist and nurses. They notice their assistant comes late 20 times in a row. They say nothing, but then on the 21st time, they explode at their assistant. So let's have just pause for a fun dress rehearsal. You have shared something with me that has changed my life in the most powerful way with SBI, situation, behavior, impact. So while we're talking about broad picture stuff about how people should do this, just drill us down, dental pun intended, to this emotional intelligence aspect of how SBI can help dentists with an assistant not setting up the room right, a front desk person forgetting to talk about money, just how this plays out in the game of dental life, where dentists go from emotionally unintelligent to starting to develop this skill.
Yeah, to give somebody feedback. So if somebody does something good, I can say you did a great job on this, as opposed to saying more specifically, SBI means situation, behavior, impact, as you mentioned. So this morning with Mr. Giovanetti, when I saw you were talking to him, he was very upset about the procedure, the way you spoke to him quietly and confidently. The impact, I think, was, I felt you really made him feel comfortable. That's a good SBI. I could be just the opposite. This morning situation with Mr. Giovanetti, and he was talking to you about, he's concerned about his first implant, and you said to him, don't worry about that. We do them all the time. I felt when you said that to him, it didn't feel that you were really showing any kind of empathy for him, listening to him. That's as opposed to saying, you were terrible with him this morning.
Right.
Right.
That's, It's too general. I mean,
accusatory.
Nacho team, please go back and take that 120 seconds. Mr. Gervanetti will change your life, because what you distilled down there, Mark, is
Right.
everything. How someone says situation, behavior, impact in a good way to really have a good impact and for them to learn, or in a way for them to do something better, right? Make improvement, or Carol Kivler, who's I think of as just like you, recognize behavior is repeated. So you're saying, hey, I recognize you did this so they could do it again. So key there.
I'm a solo practitioner. You don't have to worry about this. But now I have a whole staff.
Right.
On me to be able to give them that kind of good.
And what I find, Mark, and I'm not an expert, feedback expert. I mean, my team might say I am. That's if they want to say I'm expert at, that's fine. But I'm just joking. When you make stuff not so much about the person and personalizing it, and more about this sort of situation, which is, it really lets people, puts their guard down a little bit, right? They don't become as is. So you have been in part of our dental practice since 2005. Tell me a little bit about this transition and where you see it, or where you would help give insight. We help dentists buy practices. They're buying their first practice, and they're going from the associate to the owner. What are some Mark Dorio morale-based, emotionally intelligent things they should be thinking about in this transition?
I think, first of all, they've got to know themselves well. They've got to understand what they're getting into, okay? That's where I can help. I love to talk to people before they buy a practice, because I could give them some ways. For example, you start into a practice, you walk in, and you've got to get to know all these people, why they're doing certain things. And it takes a while to understand why they're doing certain things, and just great listening. You got to be a really good listener. Okay, I know you want to change things in the practice, if it's an existing practice, but you have to find out why they do what they do, and then listen to them. And then the word, I guess the big word here is trust.
Right.
They got to trust you.
That's team and trust go hand in hand, Mark. And what I want to share as a golden nacho tip from this is, and I say this all the time, when you go to buy a practice that does $1 million a year and you can make 300,000, you may be able to buy a practice, Mark, that has a team of 4 or a team of 14. And you have to know, how many people do you want to process on your team? How many people, when you walk in, do you want to process? And I'm a huge sports fan. Do you want a basketball team like the Sixers, or a football team? But if you don't know yourself, and you take a football team and you're a basketball person in here, that's going to be, and same vice versa. The small team, Mark, you have to develop stronger relationships. And if one person leaves that small team, that's a whole different thing. And that, to me, that team trust, people processing is so key.
And the workplace of today, people pick up and go. I mean,
Right.
I would think the acquisition of good people and keeping them, employee retention, are the two key things you now have to work on as an owner. People can.
Yeah.
I was driving to a client in Princeton on Tuesday. In an 8-block space of time, I passed 6 dental offices for general dentistry and 1 orthodontist. And I thought to myself, people can go. People, if they want to work, there's a lot. If a hygienist wants to work, there's plenty of work out there right now. If an office person wants to work, so be able to keep good people. It really depends on how that owner works with that people. So you got to know your staff. You got to get to know them, and finding good people and interviewing good people and selecting good people is also a great challenge.
And also, what I would share is there's way too much judgment of people who work for you, and not enough just evaluation of objective factors. You may have a dental assistant who talks a lot to patients, and you may love that because they make them feel comfortable. But then you also might be a dentist who says, zip it, I want to start working. Neither of those are bad things, Mark. They're just things like you've talked about in the beginning, knowing yourself. Are you the type of person, when you're checking a hygiene patient, is glad the assistant's talking about the patient's cat with them, but when you walk in, they stop? Or are you the type of person who would personally? So these are so key. To go into this subject of team, Mark, though, because this would be very helpful, especially during a pandemic. I have a team member who's moving across the country. I can't control that, right? This person is moving across the country. I feel no negativity towards me or them. It's very objective. But if my team member of any kind, dental nachos, dental practice transitions, said, hey, Paul, this just isn't the place for me. I want to move on. I would respect that. I would. I mean, I don't want to, but what are some of these things that you see that make employees leave? What helps them feel valued? If you're a leader of any organization that you've seen, because you coach people on job interviews, you coach people on both sides. When someone says, hey, Mark, I'm leaving my job, what's a lot of the whys?
One of the biggest whys, they don't feel valued.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't feel valued. And I may sound very simple, but It's not that simple. I mean, people have to feel. People don't come to work every day to just to do stuff. They really want to. They want to be recognized for what they do. They want to feel valued. They want to feel. People don't leave organizations. They leave people. You know. A study several years ago talked about job satisfaction. People thought, oh, it's got to do with money. Yeah, money's part of it. Maybe pay people properly. But the biggest component of job satisfaction is their immediate supervisor.
Yeah.
How that relationship is. People don't have a hard, if it's a good relationship, they're not going to leave very easily, or they don't want to leave unless they really have to move because some reason they're moving or whatever. But if that relationship, there's no trust, there's no value.
What are some ways that you find for leaders? Let's say this associate is going to become an owner and saying, I'm watching in and this is great stuff. I want to make my team members feel valued, but just like defining emotional intelligence, this might be trickier to define, Mark, but maybe what are some ways leaders or supervisors make people feel valued that have nothing to do with money?
Biggest way is you listen to them, bring them into the decisions where you can, make it a we, not an I. So use the word I. Get the word I. I want you to become an owner. Get the word I out of your vocabulary.
Don't use I, use we. I like that.
What do you think about this?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think? People love to be asked their opinion, and it's now a collaboration. It's not a dictatorship. I'm going to say you do this. I mean, sometimes you have to say we're going to do this. I'm not saying that, but it's got to be people have to feel like they're part of something that's important. You know?
And you made me think of something. So I was a Kobe fan, and Shaq at his memorial said he went to Kobe and he said there's no I in team, and Kobe said back, but there is in win, and he used a curse word, right? So yeah. The Kobe students, but what's kind of cool about Kobe is, and you see this with Tom Coughlin, you see this with a Kobe Bryant, they transform over their career and they see what happens. You know, when Kobe was coaching his daughters, he was a much different Kobe Bryant than he was as a 23-year-old kid. And that's part of your evolution as a dental practice owner. You know, if you're a dental, I'll give you this one, Mark. We won't spend too much more time, but like, if I came to you and said, hey, Mark, my name is Dr. Paul Goodman. I know I'm a great leader, but I've had 5 dental assistants quit in the last 5 years. Would you think that might be on my side of the fence?
There might be something going on there. Yes, exactly. Right.
And how do you tease that out? You know, whether it's a Kobe Bryant, Tom Coughlin had to change a little bit of his ways to win Super Bowls. He was a good coach, but they said you're yelling too much, Tom Coughlin, and nobody feels safe, you know, in the organization. And to his credit, Tom Coughlin transformed. So how can a dental practice owner, sometimes very set in their ways, I don't know if the dentist, can kind of get this little space to start to transform?
I think part of it being open, creating a cone of safety that people can say things to you, okay? Right. And sometimes you're not going to like what they're saying to you, but you have to listen, because if somebody says something to you that you feel is critical of you, even though you're just resisting it, there must be something there that you have to find.
I'm a pretty good person with empathy. I don't say that I'm perfect, but like, reason I say is I just say a lot of times, and it could be, like, I can see why you feel that way. And it's not me saying they're right? You know, the other dental assistant is always yelling at me. And I say, I can see why you feel that way, because, you know, I'm not saying you're right, but I say, however you consider that, maybe it's because of X, Y, Z, right? But I think when you say that to somebody, you know, people ask us a lot of weird questions, Mark, as dentists. Think back when you came in and you said, Paul, are dental implants, you know, for the rest of my life? I'd say, that's a good question, Mark. A lot of people ask that instead of being on guard and saying, oh, you know. So I think part of emotional intelligence from your beginning part is the self-awareness, self-management, and that reactivity.
And one of the techniques I teach when I work one-on-one is the active listening. So somebody says, gee, I'm really concerned about this. Well, tell me more about that. Okay. Yeah. What I hear you saying is you're upset right now. What I hear you saying is you feel good about doing this. People love to know that. That's called empathetic listening. I think as an owner, if you can learn these things before you even step into a new position,
yes, okay,
great. And if you're in a position for 10 years, can you do things differently? Yeah, you can. And people will say, what's going on with her? She never heard that before.
But it's good. And Mark, what I want to share, and this is why I love these things, is early in my practice career, before we knew each other as well, I invested in this training for a year and with my team. And I wasn't at a lot of the events. It was just team-based. And I got these amazing handwritten thank you notes from the first hygienist you ever saw. That was the person. She, unfortunately, passed away a few years ago. It was amazing. And she wrote me the most poignant letter and said, thank you for bringing us Carol Kivler, because what she has taught me has helped me in the dental office, but more importantly, it's helped me in my personal life.
Yes. Yes.
So where does this start to be the 1 + 1 = 3? If a dentist saying, if I learn emotional intelligence, how does this start to help them even outside the office in personal relationships, in family relationships?
It does. Everything we're talking about is also related across the board. But where it really begins to come, I talk about revenue generation and profitability, is that patients create other patients.
Right.
And you go out and say, "Wow, I love going there." They don't say, "Gee, that Dr. Jefferson, he's a really competent doctor." They'll say that.
It's so key. I mean, Ariel's watching
really
it.
very nice. She's really.
Ariel, yeah. I use the hygienist is so key. Hygiene, cleaning teeth, cleaning implants. It's, same thing. They say, I love seeing Ariel. She was such a great hygienist. And everyone said, she's so good with the 13, 14 on the distal of my molar, right? They just know how Ariel makes them feel in that thing. So as we wrap up, if anyone wants to put any questions in here, they can put any questions. We've done today. But Mark, I like to kindly annoy dentists to move forward and do one good thing. And my good thing is reach out to Mark and just find out how he helps. So one, Mark, I'm listening. I'm like, hey, I want to reach out to you. How do I do that?
Okay, a couple of ways. First of all, my email is mdorio, DORIO, at dorioconsulting.com.
Awesome.
Or you can text me. My 609-306-1187. You can text me or call me. And again, how we work, I would work with you one-on-one.
Well, I want to say for the recording, so it's mdorio at dorioconsulting.com. But now, Mark, I'm like, okay, I did that part. I went over my comfort zone. I'm going to email Mark Dorio and say, I saw you on the Nachos show. I need this help as a leader with emotional intelligence. Either I'm going to buy a practice or I'm in my practice. Now, Dennis likes some details. What happens after I call you? What you talked about, intake, assessment, 3 hours of coaching. Tell me a little bit about that.
We better set up a time to talk. Okay.
Gotcha.
And whatever works for you. It could be a virtual situation like this, or now, fortunately, we can do things in person, and we sit and talk. And I want to know more about you. I want to know. I don't. This is not I customize things. It's not like I have a package here I'm selling you.
Yeah.
I'm working with you one-on-one that will help you be successful, either as a current practice owner or a newer practice owner. And like I say, just a couple of hours, one-on-one sessions, you'd be amazed how much.
I want to pause you there, Mark. I see my sister in the chat, and I like this. It's like, even with this helps with kids. What I hear you saying is you want to have candy for dinner. I hear you saying that, Daphne, but we can't have candy for dinner. Maybe we can have for dessert. So we call Mark. Now, I want to peel back the worry of dentists investing things. We just had a show, Mark, where for $400 a month, dentists can get technology that text and emails and communicates with their patients. That is such a good deal. Tell me about a general investment for a leader, for them to do the 3 hours with you and move forward on Zoom. What are they investing most of the time in a broad picture way?
Yeah, with me, I would, my rate for dentists is usually about $250 an hour.
It was so reasonable.
Coaching, yeah. And my corporate clients obviously are more than that. I understand that, but I understand where dentists are.
Tell dentists that. Tell them you're giving them a deal. They love that part, Mark. Dentists love a deal, right? Not on their crown, not on your work.
Let me tell you,
what I want to inspire you to do is
for corporate clients, but I understand where dentists are coming from. I have my uncle and my family. I understand that dentists. And then we have a couple of sessions, and if you want more, we do more. And if you want me to come and work with your team, we do something with your team.
Yeah, so you've done great things. So what I want to share is, if you feel like this isn't always a joke. Dentists suffer from depression. We've had dentists die by suicide over this pandemic. You don't feel alone. And what's so nuts to me, guys, not so nuts, is you'll spend more money on fixing your golf swing than fixing your emotional intelligence. You'll spend more money on your vacation than figuring out how not to want to cry inside. And Mark's telling you, this is just for $1,000, you can invest in getting skills you can use forever that transform your life. And this, I wish they were watching this in dental school, Mark. We're not there yet. But this is the part. It's the heart part. It's the mind part. It's the words part. Mark is not going to help you with the crown prep. He doesn't know how to do them, but he is going to help you figure out what to say. Because when it happens, Mark, and my team's on here selling practice, at the end of a dentist career, they say they're tired. They say they can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. It's not about holding the drill. It's about dealing with the people. And if they don't figure that out, you might not be able to work as long. You might not be able to make as much money. There's so many things that figure. So I truly appreciate that insight. If anyone has any last minute questions, you can pop them in. But Mark, I'll kind of give you the stage for the end. What if you're looking at my audience live, on demand, on Facebook later, and you said, hey, I'm talking to dentists that are going through buying practices, practice owners, what kind of message do you want to leave them with?
I would say if your leadership skills and emotional intelligence and communication skills is unbecoming, you should be coming to me.
Yeah. Because you do this. You've signed up to do this.
It's every day. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you have done this. It's like, if you want to make paella, if you want to eat paella, go to someone who makes paella. You've signed up to do this, and then you can, basically walk them through and assess them. I mean, just assessing, you've done leadership style stuff with us, with our teams. It opens up a whole new world of people understanding each other. And
right.
If you don't figure this out, Dennis, I'm a fun person, positive person. If you don't figure this out, you can have a career that is just demoralizing. And it's not about not making enough money. It's about walking into a place, not wanting to be there. And that is a terrible, terrible feeling. So Mark, I so appreciate you sharing. If you guys enjoyed this, you can text Mark to 215-543-6454. We will also send you his email and contact information that way. So appreciate you being part of this Dental Nachos group that we built. Yeah. And Mark, we'll keep doing this awesome stuff. We'll have another segment with you, and soon it'll be in person.
And happy Father's Day to you, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Happy Father's Day to you. Stick around, Mark. Let's take us off the live stream. Thanks, guys.